In the Shapiro video, you recently said communism and socialism weren't different things and that there'd be no markets under socialism. I thought you were a market socialist. I think that market socialism is a good way of trying to achieve the political structure that you'd want before you could make a transition to socialism broadly. You know, I think I think your main concern is that you need to address the mechanisms within society that cause things to keep tilting back towards inequality. You know, you need to build systems that function well and reinforce like equality effectively. And I think that the reason you'd want to run for market socialism first effectively is because you couldn't really break away from the global capitalist market effectively without pursuing a system of government that could make those transitory changes. Wait, so you think a planned economy could work eventually? Not necessarily a planned economy, but a decommodified economy. Sure. It is worth noting that, like, we've never really tried to figure out what the limits of a decommodified economy are in a post-scarcity society. And by the way, I fully believe that America today is post-scarcity. I do believe that. I believe that with a fraction of our wealth and productive capacity, we could meet people's basic needs. Housing, clothing, food, stuff like that. The math agrees with me, you know? So that wasn't necessarily the case in like early Soviet Union. But what exactly would that look like? I'm afraid I'm going to have to defer to precedent here. I have some older videos where I talk about market socialism extensively, but effectively worker cooperatives. Yeah, I'm a big fan of worker cooperatives. I think the first thing that you need to do is annihilate the capital class, the idea of the bourgeoisie. There shouldn't be a separate, more powerful, more influential group of people within society. You want to, if you're going to keep a market economy, the first thing you have to do is make sure that you are not creating a parasite class that can then disproportionately affect democratic outcomes. What, after all, is the hope of any socialist project if the politicians pushing for it, the media pundits advocating for it, so on and so forth, if all these people belong to a different class? Ultimately, this is what fucked over the Soviet Union, you know? The idea of a vanguard party, you end up creating a separate class of people with members of the Communist Party. You had people who had a separate set of interests.